Hey there, guys. We've got news for Global on March 16th, and this week joining me to discuss it is Salien. So, you want to introduce yourself, Salien?
Hey, I'm Salien. Someone who's been playing this game since shortly after launch, and I've been part of the Wiki Unit ratings crew for a long time. And then more recently, I've taken over doing most of the data mining for the Wiki for both global and Japan since Sycidas retired.
Indeed, that is super appreciated that you have like the new unit data up pretty quick during maintenances. Especially for global exclusives, everyone is super curious to see the new unit, and I bet you can't wait for this Thursday to within 5 seconds after maintenance starts, people saying, "Where's the data? Where's the unit page?"
Yes. Always love the stream of popcorn emojis.
So, as we saw from the live stream a few days ago, it is the premium Blade of Vengeance Ibara. So, a little bit unusual for Ibara to be seen. We expect her as like a Halloween unit. Now we're getting her in, March. It's a little unexpected, but okay. So, how do you feel about Ibara? Is this a unit that, you've liked since she came out the first time, or just don't care? What are your just initial thoughts about the unit choice?
Yeah, well, the original version of Ibara I actually enjoyed just because of the weird bug that we ended up finding with her that made her much stronger than expected. It's just kind of, it didn't like completely break the game or anything, but it was a nice little extra thing to have for a while. I like when we find things like that where you can really play with something. So, I'm fond of Ibara in general for that history. Of course, this is a completely new unit, so until I get the data, who knows?
Mm-hmm. So we're also getting a special vision card. These, I mean, they're good. They're usually good, and they're powerful. It's just like some people have expressed concern that like there's so many global exclusive vision cards, like up to three per month sometimes, that they're just getting excessively expensive to try to pull them all. And obviously, you're not supposed to pull them all, I guess is the proper answer. But just how do you feel about them? Just more and more and more of these really good global vision cards that are almost all well, they are always time limited.
Yeah, it makes me more hopeful that maybe they're building towards more ways to get the past ones in the future. But I mean, that's just hopeful because it definitely is getting to the point where it's not terribly reasonable to get all of them.
Mm-hmm. And let's real quick take a look at this one. So the art looks like Dark Rain, the World Ender. 135 magic, 80%, some MP cost reduction. This is another one of those, it looks like self 100% amplify to darkness, and then 500 flat for Brave XVS units. No LB damage on it though. So, how's this card in your opinion? Great, decent, okay, underwhelming?
It's interesting because we really have gotten thoroughly into the era of most units having the 150 amps for themselves. So the 100 amp cards are harder to sell. And the main thing they helped with was when you're going off element, which, as we get into the categories stuff, is getting a lot harder to do now. So I'm not sure. I mean, it's definitely a nice card. I'm just not sure who's going to actually end up using it most of the time.
Mm-hmm. I agree completely. Because we're going to see Ibarra in a minute, like 99.9% sure she's got her own 150 Dark Amp. You can't use this on meter units because that means you're not using the Dazzle card. So, like, who really would use this? I guess you can put it on, like, Olive if you don't have Melissa, is an option, I suppose.
Yeah. At least use it a little. And
Mm-hmm.
that's going to depend on, whether or not you want to have her in there for the break or not with what Ibarra has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's definitely like a good card. Just exactly like you say, though, the self 100 amp is not quite as big of a deal as it was once upon a time. And then, the unit continues, and like I said, it is a premium unit, so a little bit harder to get. Her pity is probably going to be 60K if they do the usual way. It could be less. We don't know yet for sure. But so the unit is a true Brave Shift. Looks like a mage and support in the base form, and then only a mage in the shift form. So she does not have the breaker tag, even though we do know that she does have a spirit break on her
Mm.
LB. So, do you think that means maybe the spirit break is, some people were saying it's going to be 90, other people were saying probably not because it doesn't have the tag. What are your predictions?
It does seem pretty unlikely without the tag to be a full 90, but it's you never know. They can do whatever they want. So
Yep, definitely. So we can see here because she's a premium, which is I guess kind of neat. She doesn't have any EX3 passives except for the card, but the passives are only at EX2, which is it's definitely nice for premiums that you can get their basically full power at EX2 instead of EX3. That helps quite a bit, so that's nice. And then at EX3, we're going to get her card. Let's pop back over here. So, real quick, a correction from myself. In the live stream, recap video I did, I was pretty disappointed in this card because at first glance, I just immediately thought, oh, it's also locked to darkness, same as Dio card. And compared side by side to Dio's card, it would be a little bit weaker because it has slightly less overall stats. But it turns out this is not locked. This is a universal card that anyone can use. So even though it's slightly weaker than Dio's card, you can put it on anyone, which is definitely way more flexible. So what are your thoughts on this card, Salien?
yeah, that actually is a very fantastic point. Like it's going to be very hard for most people to get a lot of premium cards, let alone a lot of premium cards for the right element as we get into that era. So this one being able to slot into any team on your second damage dealer, even if you have the best one for that, that's pretty fantastic. I mean, that's a lot of that is speaking from a pretty veteran perspective. For someone who's relatively new, this will be super fantastic, especially because it has the chain cap on there.
That's pretty good, especially for units that don't have it naturally. Like for example, I mean you probably not going to put it on someone like Carton, but I saw some people saying because Ibara and DR are coming out, Carton's going to be meta again because he's a dark unit. But someone like that doesn't have any chain cap at all, or going like double hand Starlight Elena. Having a second chain cap source other than Magisters is pretty useful sometimes.
Yeah.
Also, now this people are not going to like this. This is all of a sudden the absolute best card for Berserker Riku as well.
Oh man.
So if you want Riku strats, you're going to want this card.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
And then the TMR and STMR. So it's once again, all Global knows how to do is STMR weapons. As usual, it's still a good weapon. I think it's the highest non-Dark Visions weapon we have now at 242 for double hand. And 500 stats and killers. So good, I guess. Certainly good. I just really wish they had some variety.
Nice, I think, to have the consistency, at least in that you get to be assured of having the right weapon imperils for everyone, but it would be good to get some more mixed in there. I think there's been a lot of katanas.
And then the TMR it's fine. It's 64 magic, killers to demons, and then a little bit of flat stats for her. A little bit strange that it's only 250 instead of 500. Kind of unexpected because 500 is the standard. Do you think maybe she's going to have just more stats in her kit naturally to account for that, or just weird choice? I think.
Yeah, either that or they're trying to make it less of a penalty not to use it on her for some reason. I don't know. We'll see.
I thought they showed the LB. Here it is, the LB. So reduces spirit, again, we don't know specifically how much. Reduces katana in peril. Any predictions on the percentage for that? Is it going to be, the standard 30, 35 like 2B? Are we getting our first 40%? What are your predictions?
I would guess, again, without the breaker tag or the debuffer tag, that it's probably not going to. Well, but she is a premium. So I don't know. I would guess 35 though.
35? Okay. Hope so. And then it gives some killers to a lot of races for herself, and then deals morale damage to all enemies. And then the previewed skill is just one of those cooldowns that deals damage. Again, we have to wait for Salien to give us the good information about all this on Thursday.
Yeah, it does at least confirm that she has store built into her kit as well.
Yep, on 3-turn cooldown as well, so definitely useful. And then leader skills. So we're getting leader skills. Do you want to give like a real brief primer on what the leader skills are, Salien, for people?
Sure. So the leader skills for each unit that they have them are a skill that they can only activate if they're set as the leader of the party, which you can only have one of those out of the 5 to 6 slots that you're using there. And when they are in that leader slot, that skill becomes active. And it's so far all of them have been passive stats for everyone in the party if their category matches certain conditions. And those categories, it's not necessarily all of the categories that the leader has. For instance, it's showing here that this is only for dark category units, whereas we know Ibara's going to have more than that. But the main thing is it's passive stats and it stacks with everything else that grants passive stats. So this is just straight up more stats on top of everything that you've seen before.
Yep. And like Salient said, the unit has to match the tag. So, for example, Ibarra is dark, so only units that have the dark tag. And there are some units that have different tags or categories per brave shifting. For example, Red Wing's Dark Cecil is a perfect example. While Cecil is in the base form, he will get all of these stats. But even though he's still a dark in the base form, if you brave shift him in battle, he is going to lose that leader skill while brave shift because his shift form is light tag, not dark tag. So keep that in mind for your tag stuff. And also, I'll give a quick tip for people to kind of like cheese the system as we go forward. There's going to be lots of EX battles that are locked to a specific category, like only dark units can join the fight. Well, if you start a unit in their shifted form or not that has the tag, they can come in and they can still obviously stay in even if they shift and lose that tag. So, for example, you could take Cecil to a dark only fight in order to make him your tank for his brave shifting, or you could take him to a light only fight by starting him in the base form. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is clever. I hadn't known that they had that many element locked fights or category locked like that in Japan. So
we're gonna get a whole bunch as we go forward. And then Ibara's leader skill herself. So this one has been definitely controversial in the community after it's been revealed. So it's 300 attack, 550 magic, and then 200 defense and spirit for only dark tag. And while this seems amazing at first glance, the reason it's a little bit controversial is because, as we also know from the stream, next week we're getting Deoxys, and his tag is pretty much, or his leader skill is basically just better. So his covers the same dark category. It also covers JP anniversary units, which is a relatively small pool of units that matter. It's a bunch of 7 stars, but the ones that do matter would be Mid, the upcoming Rain, and the upcoming Lastwell, which would allow them to flex onto a dark team, even though they're not dark. But it's 500 to attack and magic as opposed to 300 and 550. It's the same defense and spirit. So for mages, Ibara's is better, but for just general overall purpose, Deoxys is way better. So how do you feel about this situation, Salien?
yeah, so I definitely talked about this a lot already in Discord, but it is disappointing that they went for one. I was sort of hoping, I didn't really think that it was actually likely to happen, but I was sort of hoping that they decrease the scale of the leader skills when they first come to global, because it's such a huge jump that you essentially, there's an entire universe of difference between running a team with a good leader skill and running one without. Like, they're basically required now going forward. And so that's kind of frustrating because, there have been a few times in the past that Gumi has smoothed out some of these power jumps from Japan. And we're going full speed here. We're going right into it. So that was kind of disappointing. The other thing is that I thought it was interesting that they tried to make it unbalanced between attack and mag, to make it like better in some situations and worse in others. But because they restricted it to just one elemental category, and then it's weighted towards one stat, it just really reduces the number of people that you can actually have in a team with her. And that's like, one of the most fun things in this game is finding out interesting combinations of units that you can put together into a team to reach whatever your goals in the game are. So it's just frustrating how much that limits it to make it just one element, which is going to be, like an eighth of the pool.
So, just off the top of my head, just to call out a few units that would qualify for the dark tag, it would be Sephiroth would be the big popular physical one. Some magical ones are Lady Shantoto, Olivera, and Ibara herself. Is there anyone else like modern that I'm forgetting in this list? That probably is.
I mean, there's Ibara herself, of course, but she's obviously going to be there when you bring her along. Um, yeah, that's all I can think of as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
because
someone like Melissa will probably benefit because she'll probably get the dark tag, but you're not really bringing her for her own damage anyway.
yeah, I was going through the our useful class units, and there's really not a whole lot of them that would benefit. Oh, Lilith will get it, although because she scales her damage on defense, she'll only get a 200% buff. So it helps, but not nearly as much. But it's cool.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts? We don't have the data mine yet, so you don't know. But based on everything you've seen, do you have any early predictions about how you're going to deal her banner? Are you going to skip entirely? Are you going straight to pity? Are you doing tickets only? What are your just early thoughts before seeing the unit's kit?
Well, I definitely think with that vision card being so good, it is really tempting to throw some stuff at getting that. Sorry, not the Glex one as well, but mostly
you mean her card
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one is very tempting to go for, but I still might. It's definitely going to depend a lot on how much she affects the clash as well. One of the things that I think is interesting that they could have done, and hopefully will do in the future for leader skills for clash units, is that defense matters a ton more there than it does in Dark Visions. So there's a lot more room to have a lot of power in a leader because they bring actual larger defensive stat boosts as well.
So they could do like some global leaders with like 500 defensive spirit or something.
Right.
Would be real nice. For me, I think I'm most definitely going to, at the very least, use tickets to try to get myself one copy so I can stick her in the Shard Dungeon because, like you said, this vision card is definitely a long-term goal. Like, everyone's going to want one copy of this because it's just really good. So I think I'm definitely going to use some tickets and try to get a minimum of one copy so that worst case scenario, 6 to 8 months from now, I'll get the vision card. But depending on the data mine, depending on how good the kit is, after I calculate her damage from having her full kit, I might go for the step up, get the card, maybe even go to pity, depending on how strong she is. The leader skill, I'm definitely disappointed in. But if the unit on her own, not counting her bad leader skill, stands up like as a complete standalone unit, then I can just like next month go for Rain as well, use him as the leader, and she'll still get buffed from Rain's better leader skill. So that might be my plan for now, because Rain's leader skill, as I've mentioned before, is probably one of the best ever.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it really depends a lot on how the unit is as itself.
So we look forward to seeing that on Thursday. And then we're also getting a story event for Blade of Vengeance Ibara. They previewed it a little bit in the stream. The gear is kind of whatever. This 25% silence hat is very goofy. I don't understand the 25%. Like, what is the reason? Like, I mean, the status effects are not overpowering. Like, 25% is so strange.
I'm not sure when the last time we saw a new piece of equipment with less than 100%. It's been a while.
It's so goofy. A dual race killer, always amazing. And then this chess piece. The chess piece's stats aren't super amazing, but it does give automatic mitigation against humans and demons as a permanent buff. So hopefully that can be a high percentage. So we'll have to see after maintenance.
Yeah, I love niche, like especially auto buff equipment like that from events. I feel like that's a great thing to put in there because yeah, it can just give you a nice boost of survival on like a brave shift unit where you start them out in this form and then shift them to the form with the actual bulk gear. So I always like seeing things like that.
Mm-hmm. And then we're getting an EX fight. So these are usually just walk in and OTK, but sometimes Global puts like a crazy challenging one every now and then. So do you think this is going to be super hard, or we're going to be like, turn one, use Chizuru's LB, you win?
I think it's probably the latter, though. Again, it depends on how much they adjust their balance with the release of leader skills.
Oh, that's true, huh? That is true. Yeah, we'll have to see. And then just some quick login rewards. So we're getting the old Ibara for free, and then over the course of 2 weeks, you're going to get 50 fragments. So even if you've never pulled her, that's an EX1. The old Ibara is very heavily power crept, and I don't think that it's going to matter, but it's free, so whatever, sure. Maybe it's like a bonus unit during the event or something. I don't know. And then we're getting a daily free 5 summon with the new Ibara included, 3% rate for Neovisions. We don't know the Ibara rate, but it's free, so 5 days. Nice.
Yeah. Never complain about free pulls.
Mm-hmm. And then the Clash of Wills we're getting this week. So a demon shogun bent on unifying all realms under his rule, the Nobunaga. And Liv Dilly was telling me that this name is a play on some actual real life general or something. I forget specifically what he was telling me, but it's kind of cool, I guess.
Yeah, that is fun. I wonder if that will end up being tied into the story event as well.
Mm-hmm. So it's week 2, Darkfire and Ice. It's a demon human. And then, so it uses fire, ice, and dark non-elemental physical attacks, and then non-elemental magical attacks. So it sounds like just non-elemental magic and resistible physical. So are we bringing Chow back this month, or do we think Chow is just permanently dead at this point?
It's at least not, specifically targeting Chow here with like a non-human damage buff or anything that they've called out so far. So maybe he can at least come into play.
Mm-hmm. So it deals fractional and fixed. It reduces the usual stuff. It does reduce your restoration amount, meaning healing reduction down, and Melissa can remove that. So that, depending on the percentage, that could be a big deal for Melissa to be on the party. And then you got to deal with the usual damage. But this one is the interesting one right here, is the new challenge option. Attack negative 25%. So this is similar to the previous defense and spirit down. And these are like a total complete reduction. It applies to everything. Base stats, vision cards, buffs, everything is reduced by 25%. So that's kind of a big deal because, let's just say, as an example, a buffed up 2B at 15,000 attack power. So they're going to be down to, what, 1,200 or 1,100, something like that?
Yeah, because it's 9/16 then because of the squaring of attack. So that's almost cutting it in half.
And that's like a really big damage penalty for physical units.
Yeah. Yeah, it's certainly encouraging magic units. It's at least a little bit better than the break counters that made it really limiting on what units you could use in the past. This is just, pushing you, not requiring you to not use physical units.
Mm-hmm. And this is the final boss of the season. So season, I think 7 we're on, I think. So they're usually pretty much harder than average. It's wanting you to bring it's incentivizing you to bring magical damage dealers, and leader skills do exist. So, do you think this is going to be tuned with leader skills in mind?
It's really hard to figure out what the way they delayed the release of the leader skills to halfway through when it's done. So, I think it's probably tuned to the harder end of what we can do now, such that if you do pull for Ibara, when you get the leader skill activated next week, you'll have a much easier time. It would be my guess. So it would be possible to do week 1, but very difficult.
And this I should point out as well, as the event is 3 weeks long. So it's almost like they kind of expected the event to really start after leader skills, which is then 2 more weeks. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a 3 week Clash of Wills.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting also to see when they launch the leader skills. I know in JP, they, at least for some older units, gave them at least the 100%. And hopefully we get that on a fair number of units so that, you're not dealing with the difference between 0 and 500. You're dealing with the difference between 1 and 500, which is still huge, but a little bit smaller.
And then the other thing interesting is they're upgrading the crown from Clash of Wills. So Conqueror Celestite is going to have 350% auto buff every turn. That won't stack with actual buffs, so that's probably one of the worst options. The champions is LB damage 150%. That's pretty high, pretty good. 150 killers on the Gravekeepers. Magisters gets 200 flat, and then Rulers goes to 500 flat. So based on these 5, or I guess 4 options, we can't even count the Conquerors. Do any of these compete with Rulers enough to swap back over Salien, or do you think we're staying most people with just the Rulers?
I think rulers is pretty likely. It depends if, I mean, 150 LB damage is more than we've seen in a single slot ever. So there might be some units that have trouble for that, but I feel like none of the really modern or recent ones did. So it'd be mostly if you're building something strange I can't think of right now for your team. So yeah, I think the 500 just is going to be too tempting. And there's enough other sources of the chain cap now that I think that for most people, that's still going to be the better choice. To go with the
Yep, so that'll be fun. As far as me, sometimes I stream Clash of Wills, sometimes I don't. I think I'll probably try a stream on Thursday to see how it goes. I am really, really concerned about the whole leader skill thing. They're making it 3 weeks long, so it feels like they're going to really expect you to have leader skills. They might not, but if that's the case, then trying to cap on day one stream might not happen. But I'll probably stream a little bit to at least people can see some initial things, and then if I decide after an hour of just fail boating it, I'll say, okay, we got to just wait a week, I guess. but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see whatever poor tank is getting pounded, give them a break or not. But I certainly believe that, or hope, that at least in the first week, you'll be able to find it out and figure it out, at least once we have the AI and stuff, even if you can't do it during the stream. Because if you can't figure it out in the whole first week, then that puts it squarely in leader skills required land.
And I guess the only other thing really worth mentioning is the Dark Vision stuff. So Dark Vision is still closed. It seems like it's going to be closed for the entirety of the week. Probably going to open next week. How do you feel they've handled the entire Dark Vision stuff with the bug, the shutdown, they're resetting everyone's scores? What are your just overall thoughts on that, Salien?
Yeah, well, it was all sort of funny and frustrating. Definitely feel like, as per usual, they could have been clearer and quicker with the communication, just so that people weren't left wondering, do I need to do this? I'm sure there were some people that kind of panicked to see if they could take advantage of the bug, hoping for either some kind of payout or just at least getting something more than others out of it. I think, the end result ended up being pretty fair, if not fun. Having to have everyone reset, at least most people are going to be in the same boat, but it is still pretty frustrating. And again, it was left unresolved for long enough that people, probably made some decisions and might have spent some resources and stuff on that more than the few lapis that they're handing out.
Yeah, the compensation, I do feel like it's a little low just because myself, I actually spent something I don't know the exact amount, but a minimum of 4 hours rerunning that fight for a good roll. I was doing to try to get a good, a good score on the video. And I spent like 4 hours or more rerunning that dumb fight. And that's just getting all reset. And I'm going to have to do it again, which feels bad. 500 lapis as your, compensation for 4+ hours. It feels bad. I wasn't expecting 50K or anything like that. That was insane. But I feel 500 is a little low. It could have been more than that.
Yeah, yeah, especially anyone who spent any time on it, either before the bug was discovered or just without using the bug at all. That it's probably the least fair to them.
Mm-hmm. But we'll see. It hasn't opened yet. Maybe they'll do something different. I don't know. We'll see that next week, I suppose. But I guess that's it for the week. So thanks again for joining me, Salien.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so see you guys. I'll do like my usual early global exclusive impression of the unit at some point Wednesday evening. So okay, see you for that. Later.